Welcome to the Pizza and PE podcast, the Triple P, where a group of friends get together each week to eat pizza and discuss PE.
Hey, my friend, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Well, it's been over a year that we took a I can't even say that word, sabbatical from the Pizza and PE podcast. So I'm excited that we're relaunching this tonight. Well, it won't be aired tonight, but we are recording it tonight. So lots of things have happened this past year and a half. You know?
Yeah, you went corporate, like, 90s bands.
A little bit. Oh, really? I went solo. Yeah, I decided to play solo, but we'll get to that in just a moment. So, yeah, there's reasons why we took a year and a half off. We were pretty busy, and things changed, but I'm sure some of our listeners would like to know, Keith, what's been going on? Anything new? Anything new?
I know what you're getting at. So, yeah, I got a new shirt.
No, I've seen that shirt before.
That's not it. I still have the same job.
You do? You still work for a large urban school district? Yep, in Charlotte. Yeah.
Yep. I still like the Oakland A's, even though they've lost every game this season.
Okay. All right. And you still like the Commanders? Or did you
the team from Washington?
Yeah.
Bringing the logo back. Yeah.
All right. What else?
Wow.
You grew up a little bit over this year. You matured. You decided.
Matured. That makes me mature because I finally committed to something in my first time ever in my life. Yeah, so I've gotten engaged, and it's wonderful. And I look forward to the next step in this process.
Just growing old together, living in a retirement home, getting a golf cart, going golfing. Yeah.
Pouring beverages at the local brewery is my retirement plan.
Spending time with your soulmate, which is going to be your wife. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you.
I'm very, very excited for you. I will say, I knew the day would come. I just didn't know when. You and I have been friends together for 20 plus years. Probably more than that. I mean, we knew each other early on in our careers, and then we got the opportunity to work together in a large urban school district. But yeah, congratulations.
Because we worked in a small suburban school district prior to.
Right, that neighbored the large urban school district that I just left, over a year ago. That's one of the reasons why we took a sabbatical. Things have changed.
You've changed into, some meditating health guru. I mean, I know you can't see it because of my green screen, but even I'm doing kombucha. I need something for the probiotic effects. And you get a little older, you need probiotics.
A little digestive health, little gut health.
It helps with the pizza, the enzymes in this wonderful sliced tomato 5-cheese pie.
Okay, so audience, listeners, things have changed, but we still like pizza. We still love talking about PE. Now, we won't have an adult beverage on this podcast, but I got to admit, I thought that Keith had one, but it's a kombucha can. So if you're viewing this on YouTube, which we do have a YouTube channel, just search Pizza and PE and you'll find it. But you could also obviously listen to this podcast to basically all podcast platforms. So you talked about me meditating, a little bit of holistic wellness. I decided to do that lately, my friend. That's something that's changed in the last, I started in the last 2 weeks, so I can't say it's been the whole year.
Well, and so let me tell you, we share a lot of things, but our guest today, which I know you're going to get to in a few minutes, there's something that all three of us share outside of the profession too. I can't wait to share that little nugget. Well, nothing. It's a big deal.
So here's the thing. So Keith, even though I retired from North Carolina schools after 28 years, doesn't mean I was retired from the PE and health world. So I did become part of the corporate world. Let me move my hair. So if you're watching this on YouTube, School Health, we supply your future. Yes, shameless little plug right here. If you need athletic training supplies, PE equipment, curriculum, health curriculum, PE, we have it all. Sports medicine, we have it all. We supply your future. So you could say I'm working for the future.
So
For health.
when they see that, they can write a check to, my best friends call me Cash.
No, I'm not worried about that, but maybe they'll sponsor us in pizza someday. So maybe they'll become a corporate sponsor of the Pizza and PE podcast.
It's cheap.
Oh, all right. So listen, even though I left that large urban school district, and you thought, my friend, you were going to get rid of me. But little did you know that the person that was going to come and take a position that I just left about 1.5 years ago, she basically is my doppelganger. Could you, it's like Kim's always there. She never left, because our guest today is my doppelganger. She moved from Virginia Beach Public Schools, okay, working as a PE and health teacher, to a large urban school district, okay? And by the way, we are born on the same day, June 4th, same year. We're the same age. We basically could finish each other's sentences. We think, we don't even need to talk. We already know what each other is thinking. You thought you're getting rid of me. And that's our guest today. That's our guest today.
Everything has stayed the same.
Interviewing me.
Everything is the same except one difference.
Huh.
We had to listen to you talk about Buffalo, and now I got to listen to her talk about Virginia Beach.
Oh.
So it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, my friend. Don't give her a hard time by saying, well, it's the way it is in Virginia Beach. We did that all the time, because we used to say, well, that's not the way that we did it in our prior school system that you and I both worked at before going to this large urban school district, which of course we're not naming names, but hey, people who's listening, we live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Take a guess. So let's bring our guest onto the show, the one and only Jenn Vedder. Hey, my friend.
Hello.
Oh,
which one's which?
I would say sister.
I know. I'm doing great. It's great to be here. This is a lot of fun.
So I'm going to make you a little bit larger, Jenn, so that everybody can just see who you are if they're viewing this just a little up and just a little closer. So Jenn,
yes.
I forgot to say this in the biography of introducing you to the show, but you and I did meet. I don't know, about 2-3 years ago. It was right after the pandemic, I believe.
No, it was before the pandemic. It was before. We met in 2019 at James Madison.
Ooh, see,
remember then Choice-led?
Yes.
2018. I think it was a few years before that, because then Choice-led Health came to Virginia, and then you and I worked on that, remember?
Yes. Okay, so that's how you and I met, because I knew that we met at James Madison University, another shameless plug for an amazing PE conference called the Health and Physical Activity Institute, which I think is one of the best conferences ever. And it's in the summer, sometime in July, but it's one of the best conferences, 2 or 3 days that you spend on campus at James Madison University. And basically, there's something going on. What is there, walking behind us somewhere? Huh. Did we all heard that though, right?
I don't hear anything.
Okay. It did sound like steps.
Really?
Yeah, it did. But anyways, so we met at James Madison University, and instantly we just clicked and bonded, and we knew just all of a sudden, I think we attended both. You presented, I presented. I went to your one on unified sports.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. And I remember coming back and telling my coworkers, Keith, one of them, and I said, the Health and Physical Activity Institute is amazing, awesome conference. And I met this really, really cool person that you guys would love to meet. And I just said, we just brainstormed. And I remember sharing you the vision of choice-led health and how that would look in Virginia. And then you shared with me all the standards of learning and what Schoology platform you guys were using. And at that time, it wasn't even the remote learning world. But we're like, okay, is this Google Drive? How does this curriculum look? Does it have to be online? Is it just an e-curriculum? Blah, 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 blah. And I remember taking some of that information that you shared, and just like a college student, because I stayed on campus, because when you go to that Health and Physical Activity Institute at James Madison University, you stay on campus. Now, of course, you could get a hotel, which later on I ended up doing years after. But if you stay on dorms, you feel like a college student again.
Yeah.
So I was like, I might as well just go back and study and start doing some of the work that Jen said that, gave me suggestions. And then I think I showed you the very next day, like, will this work?
No, 100%. And it was really interesting because, have you ever been in that environment where it's like that light bulb moment? And
Yeah.
I remember sitting in your presentation with my friend Rachel, and it was like, oh my gosh, like this is exactly what our kids need. And you shared a whole bunch of stuff with me, and I took it back, and I spent like the rest of the summer kind of tweaking it for my ninth graders. And it was just so enlightening to be able to teach that way. And it just changed the entire dynamic of how I interacted with kids and how they like were able to demonstrate their understanding in a whole different way. And the freedom was a little scary for them, but they really just changed the whole atmosphere of class. 100%.
I remember just sharing with him, like, okay, see if this works.
Great. No,
that's all the task was. Just it worked for me years ago when I was teaching health education, but I was like, okay, this is, tweaked it to like the 10th, version to make it so much better. And I was like, okay, I've been out of the classroom for maybe about 5 years, but hey, I don't know what this looks like when it's really being taught. So, hey, just try it and let me know. And then you worked. You were able to edit. You were part of like a lot of the curriculum things that I later worked on. So, yeah, you've been one of those huge key stakeholders, valued opinions in my life of when it comes to curriculum. So thank you, Jenn Vedder.
Yeah, well, right back at
So
you.
is it weird for you too when you go back to like the Virginia College thing to not see like feathers, pens, and like chalkboards and scrolls? Like what? Because you guys are old.
What Keith is saying is we're old, and I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate that.
I mean, Jen, I'm glad that you're voicing your opinion, and I value your opinion, because in the past we would have to just, we'd be afraid to speak up, but now we're not afraid to speak up.
Nope.
So
scared.
And you thought you were getting rid of me, my friend Keith. So Jen, thanks for being on the show today. And to kick off the relaunch of the Pizza and PE podcast, I think this is episode 23 or 24. So Keith and I basically got together and said, hey, we're so grateful for the guests that we had on the Pizza and PE podcast that it was a shame not to keep doing it. And we did start it during the pandemic, but we had so many amazing conversations, so many amazing guests, that I just felt like we had to relaunch this. And realistically, probably could do one a month, not one a week, but one a month due to work, commitments and family commitments and, just time out for yourself. So thank you. You are the ideal person to have.
Let's be real.
What?
I've got bowling and bocce commitments.
Yeah. So we have to make it work. And I'm glad that Keith was able to take the night off.
Well, we bowled last night,
Bowling and bocce. Oh boy.
Yeah.
He's giving up the flag football. I'm glad
those are called low impact sports.
Wow. All right. Well, let's get to the show, Keith.
Yeah. So, well, Jen, since I don't get to ask you questions all day at work, we usually, talk a little bit about the background of each guest, and, like us, we've, all have different paths to education and what brought us here, but you have a path that's like a winding road.
Oh yeah.
And it's very long, and it wasn't like a college to education pipeline, so to speak. I'm always fascinated by the stories that you tell, and even the stories of the things your husband has done as well. So elaborate for us or share with us, how you got to education and how you got to this point in education.
You're right. It is a weird path for sure. So I went to college as a biology and healthcare administration major. I went to school in Rhode Island, and my freshman year, one of my roommates was like, "Hey, you should come down and check out this ROTC department because the officers that work there are super cute." So I was like, "All right, right." So I went down there, and they were desperate for women to join ROTC. It was that point in the 90s where there weren't a lot of women in the military. And so they were like, "Hey, you're an athlete and you're smart. Okay, sign here." And so I applied for a scholarship. I was able to get a 3-year scholarship. They paid for my tuition, my books, my lab fees, all that good stuff. And my commitment, I had a commitment after I graduated. But during the rest of my college time, you get classes on military leadership. You get classes on how to be an officer in the military and what to expect. And so by the time I graduated with my degree, I was like, okay, well, I have a job. So unlike most of my friends who were trying to get a job, I was like, I'm guaranteed a job. So I'm just, headed off to San Antonio, Texas, and then Korea for my first assignment. And so I was a medical service corps officer. I wasn't really thinking past like the next day, right? I was completely overwhelmed, 21-year-old in Korea. I'd never been anywhere but like Boston and Rhode Island. I grew up in New York, right? So it was really like just eye-opening to be in a foreign country, not understand any of the language, and be in charge of a whole bunch of people that were older than me. And so I learned just a lot about being an adult, about being a human, about empathy, about just how to survive. And when I came back from that deployment, Ed and I were married, and I still had some time left in the military. And so we were actually in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And I had some jobs there at the hospital, and then I had some babies, and it was time for my commitment to be over. And I really wasn't thinking any more than like, you know what, this has been great, but I think this is not for me, right? My husband loved it 100%, all in. And I'll tell you, you can ask women who were in the military in the 90s, it was not super woman friendly. I did face a lot of backlash from just people thinking that women shouldn't be in the military. And it was surprising to me because as a medical service corps officer, I was surrounded by women nurses, dietitians, pharmacists, doctors, lots of women. But the majority of people who were in the roles of quote unquote power were men. And I can remember getting just torn apart by folks who really were trying to teach me lessons. But it was very demoralizing at the time. And so I thought, you know what, this isn't for me. There's got to be something else. So I took a break from working outside the home, raised some babies, went and followed my husband all over the world, went to Germany, spent a long time there, went to Germany with a 6-week-old baby, came back from Germany with another 6-week-old baby. That's what you do in the military. You have babies. And so during that whole time, wasn't really just raising the babies, right? Supporting my husband, doing a lot of social stuff where supporting his role in the military because he would find himself in a leadership position. And as such, the spouse would be responsible for like caring for the families when the soldiers deployed. So, or went other places. So there was a lot of that I learned. I was young too. I mean, I was barely in my 30s at this point. And there was a lot I learned about just communicating with people and working with people and supporting women, especially young women, to help them grow and develop and find their own thing while their spouse was doing their stuff with the military. And so years go by, and I kind of ran into some people just by chance who were like, hey, You were prior service in the military. What do you think about working for this government contractor? We have this really neat project where we are conducting empathy interviews with soldiers and officers from across the world who deployed to Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. And I said, oh, wow, like this sounds really cool. And so I worked on that project for about 6 years from home. So I was still able to be with the babies, but I worked full time from home. And this is like way back when working from home was not a thing. So it was a real blessing to be able to do that. And over that time, I really was able to conduct some interviews with people that gave me an incredible sense of not only what my husband was going through when he was deployed, because during this time he was gone for about 16 months, and but also gave me a really deep appreciation for what families go through and how important it is for the families to support their soldier, man or woman, who is deployed, and like what you can do to support them. So those empathy interviews really just kind of opened my eyes to people and like what people are all about and how to work with people and how to communicate effectively. And so from there, I also I taught online. I got my master's degree. I taught online at a couple of different universities in their graduate programs in healthcare administration, as well as undergraduate programs, talking about like electronic medical records and all sorts of fun stuff like that with my degree. And when my kids entered, my second youngest daughter entered high school, they needed a track coach to assist. And I was like, oh, I could do that, right? Like I was an athlete. I used to coach Special Olympics when I was in high school. I'm like, this is great. And so as soon as I started doing that, I realized, oh my gosh, I need to work with kids. I don't need to teach at the graduate or undergraduate level. I need to be in the classroom with kids. And really it was just one of those light bulb moments again. And so I did an alternative path to licensure. I thought, oh, this will be a breeze, right? But it was not. Even though I had a master's degree, I had to go back to school for 2 years and take all those fun classes about classroom management. I didn't learn any of it. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know any of that. And I thought, well, health and PE for sure, right? Because that's just my passion. I think this is great. I love this. And so easy breezy, passed the praxis, did my practicum, did all my student teaching and all that fun stuff right there at my daughter's school. It was great. And then couldn't find a job anywhere, and eventually landed a job at this high school, very similar to many of our schools in our large urban school district. And so it was a really great opportunity for me to be like, okay, can I actually do this? But what I discovered was that my life experience of just being alive and having gone through all of these different experiences, from serving in the military to having opportunities to talk to so many people from across all these different countries, to having babies and raising kids and being in positions where you have to be on, so to speak, as far as, being the person that people come to all the time with problems or situations, trying to support my husband. I really found that all of that was what really helped me in the classroom, and not anything that I learned in my alternative licensure stuff. It was just being able to build relationships with the kids that made all the difference in everything I did. So like that, to me, I knew exactly where I was supposed to be. That was exactly what I was supposed to be doing. But I don't think that I could have done it 20 years earlier, because I wasn't ready to do that. And I see these young kids who are like 22 stepping in front of these classrooms, and I'm like, there is no way I would have ever done that. I would much rather have been in Korea doing what I was doing than being in a classroom in front of a bunch of 14-year-old kids. That was terrifying, right? But anyway, so there you go. That's how I got into it. And that's it.
So you would say it's kind of, it's a long squirrely path, as though somebody got lost. And, it's funny. I found out today that your pension for getting lost is just like your partner up here
Yes.
who has to use GPS to get home every day.
Yeah.
You need to do the same thing, because the two of you are, as my good friend Beverly would say, as lost as last year's Easter egg.
You're not wrong with that. And I shared a story today, Kim, about my near-death experience because I could not find my way back to where I was supposed to be when I was in Korea. So yes, navigation, cardinal directions, not my thing. Not at all.
Same here. So,
Yeah.
is there a scary story about you not knowing where you were going in Korea? Really? Is this a true story?
Yeah. So I'm sweating because this brings up all sorts of horrible memories. So anyway, we were in the field training, and we needed to do something called night land navigation. And what that means is you get a compass. Think way back, right? Just a compass. And in the Army, they had these green compasses, and you opened them up, and the arrows on them would glow in the dark. So you could use that to navigate your way. And so we couldn't use flashlights, and you could only use the red lens on the flashlight because you were trying to conceal yourself. And so we would get a map, and we'd have to draw out where we needed to go. They would give us points to find, and we'd have to mark our steps and walk to the location by counting our steps, right? So you would know I go 100 steps to the east, and then I would turn left, and I'd have to go 150 steps this way. Well, first of all, that means nothing to me because east, right. I have no idea where I am.
I'm already lost.
Exactly. So daytime, I was much better, but in the night, it was no idea. So I'm walking, I'm thinking I know what I'm doing, and I trying to follow the compass, and I keep walking, and I walk right off a cliff. And I had my M16, my rifle, strapped on my back, and it caught me on a big, like a limb that was sticking out from the side of the cliff. And I'm just like hanging there from that weapon. And I'm like, oh, this is it. This is how it ends. Like this, I'm 22. I'm in the middle of nowhere. Nobody knows I'm here. And it was terrifying. And so I kind of was like, all right, got my bearings, and then like pulled myself up on and threw my legs over and was able to get back up onto the cliff. But that was it. Like I was done. I was absolutely not going anywhere after that. I'm like, someone can just pick me up. I am not ever doing this again, ever. And what was the worst part about it is that, as an officer, you are the leader. And yeah, but it was okay.
You couldn't cry. You couldn't cry.
Oh no, there were tears. I was all alone. There were plenty.
I was like, whoa.
I know. And it was just terrifying. It was so scary. And it's funny because at the time I'm just like, okay, that sucked. And then like 10 years later, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was awful. You know what I mean? Like it just total delayed reaction to the whole situation. Anyway, needless to say, I don't go out in the dark with a compass ever again. And thank God for GPSs. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. No, it's one of those where I do sort of trust GPSs. I still get lost with them. So it doesn't matter. So you mentioned that you're in college, sophomore year. Your roommate said, hey, there's some cute, ROTC, some military guys. So how'd you meet your husband, Ed? You talked that you got married when you were there, but like, was he one of the recruiters?
No, he was not.
Okay.
Ed was, oh my gosh, he's the best. So he was actually a prior service enlisted soldier who got out of the military, he was in the National Guard. He was active duty and then went National Guard and went back to college. So he was a little older than the rest of us in ROTC. He's like 4 years older than us. And he came back in on a scholarship to become an officer.
Okay.
So he went to University of Massachusetts, Amherst, but their ROTC department was linked to my college, Providence College. So he would drive out, it's like a half an hour. He would drive over to our school for all of our courses and our physical training in the morning and all that kind of stuff. So I met him my junior year. He would have nothing to do with us. He's like, you guys are all a bunch of idiots, because here we are, college kids running around thinking we're all that, we're going to go in the army and we're so great. He's like, you guys have no idea what you're getting into. You're stupid. He wouldn't like come to parties with us. He wouldn't do anything. So then we went to, but we were all friendly, right? But he just was like, you're stupid. So then we went to our training in between the summers of our junior and senior year. And it's kind of like basic training, but for officers. So there's like a big leadership component, but there's also like physical fitness component and land navigation component and all sorts of different training that you go through. And at the end of that camp, we come back to school, and depending on the rating that you got at the camp, you got a position, an officer position for your senior year. So the cadets, we were called, the seniors would be responsible for all the workings of the program for like all the younger cadets, right? So like we would lead them through a whole bunch of stuff. We'd run PT, we'd teach classes, we'd plan different events and all that kind of stuff. So when we came back, my scores from camp that we went to were like 2 or 3 points higher than Ed's. And we came back in, and he was so angry that I beat him. And he couldn't believe it, because like there was money on me never even coming back from training because of land navigation, like way back then, like it was even a thing. And so I rose to the challenge, right? So I come back, and he was like, oh my gosh, like what did you do? How'd you do that? And then we just became friends, because I was the cadet battalion commander and he was my executive officer. So that means that like he kind of worked for me. So I would get to tell him like things to do and all that kind of stuff. But he was such a soldier. Like he had already had all this military experience. Like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And so I learned a ton from him, but we started dating, and we started dating. I think it was like in October of my senior year. And then in May, I left and went to Korea. And we were still dating. He came over to see me a couple of times in Korea. And remember, this is 1995.
Yeah.
Paper tickets that you wrote, like now like computers. And he was at flight school, and he came over for Christmas. And then I came back in February, and we got married on my break from Korea. And then 4 days later, I flew back to Korea. And that was it. And then, we spent the next like 4 or 5 years not really, just kind of like passing each other between deployments and schools that we went to and all sorts of stuff.
And raising babies.
Yeah. Well, then the babies. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I bring Ed up because I met Ed for the first time in Seattle at the National Health and, the National Shape Conference.
Yeah.
2023. And fortunately now in your life, right, your babies are older. Mm-hmm. You and Ed can travel together.
Yes.
He is now out of the military. He's retired.
He is.
And you do a lot of presentations, nationally. So, listeners, Jenn Vedder, go see her when you see it. You go to a lot of state conferences, you do district PDs, and then I think you're going to Cleveland, the National Shape Conference.
We'll probably go. Yeah.
Yeah. But Ed gets to go with you now.
He does. It's so great. And we've been married almost 30 years. And so way back when, I was kind of like, I'm good. I will raise babies. I will stay home. If I get to work from home, that's fabulous. And that's how it worked out for a while, Mm-hmm. But then as they got older, I was kind of like, I really see myself doing something else. But he was so super busy with his career that it was kind of like, just got to pause. And then when my youngest was old enough, that's when I was in the classroom teaching high school. But when he always said, when I retire, it's all about you. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, but he has been the most amazing support person ever. Like it's just been so great, and just to he's always been my biggest cheerleader, but to have someone who supports you and takes care of you and wants the best for you, after being married 30 years and doesn't hate you, like like that's huge,
The babies are out of the house.
Babies are out of the house.
We have to like each other.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're traveling together because, I'm in a point in my life too where I can do state conferences and professional development, but I still have, a son who's a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those where I don't want to travel all the time because my husband can't go. But to have the fact that you can travel together and enjoy what you're doing. And I know that he's a huge supporter of yours because not only did he support you in your career, but you actually moved states.
He did. He picked up and left. He retired, and we were like, we put a pool in the house. We redid the kitchen. And we were like, this is it. We love it here. This is awesome. And then it wasn't. And it was time for me to go. And I was like, I have got to move on. And he had retired. And there was just nothing. There was nothing there. I was like, that's it. You know what? I'm just going to quit. I'm going to take a year off. I'm going to work like some side hustles and do some things. And then all of a sudden, I got this amazing phone call from our lovely, wonderful friend, Vanessa and Sheila. And they're like, hey, what are you doing with your life? And I was like, nothing, because I'm miserable. And then so I said, hey, this would be an amazing opportunity. And he's like, all right, let's go for it. I love fishing, which is why we were in Virginia Beach. But if this is what you want to do, let's go. And so it was we were very fortunate to do that. Really, I thought you
were joking. Like I was like, I don't want to persuade somebody you are perfect for this position, but you still have to move. Like there's almost like a guilt trip. Like if I talked you into it and then you got here, okay, I don't want to do this. Because one, let's just say this, are an amazing teacher. You had some great creative programs which one of my favorite is your sci-fi, combination between science and phys ed, which I still think that needs to be bottled up into a curriculum or into a program, my opinion. And you went from, your basically path from captain to coach to being a teacher. And, you worked at a, high priority high school, high needs high school. You did amazingly well. You had great classroom management. You had great relationships with the kids. You were creative. You were organized. Now, you spoke a little bit about your life experience, about, that your years of, let's say, life of your experience in the military and so forth may have prepared you for the role of coordinator. Okay. So we've already covered that, but I bet you get questioned a lot by people saying, how do you get a district coordinator position? How did you get to become a health and PE coordinator of a large urban school district? So to our audience and to our listeners who want to say, okay, someday I may want to be a coordinator, maybe a large or small school district. How does that happen? How do you go from a teacher to a coordinator? What kind of tips would you give to some of our listeners who might be interested in that type of role?
Professional development. Learn everything you can possibly learn. Like actively pursue those people who are in positions that you think that maybe you would be good at, and figure out how they did it and what they're doing, and really kind of go to every training you can get your hands on. And I'll tell you, James Madison University, hands down, the best professional development between their adapted physical education content teaching academy that they offer there every year and HPAI. I learned so much. And I think that's the most important part, right? Is that you have to be able to be motivated intrinsically to want to learn more. And you can't just wait for people to give it to you, because it's not going to happen. And so that's the first piece. And then I think the second piece is that I knew that it was time for me to move on. I had done everything I could do at that school. I was completely prepared mentally, emotionally, to move on to another chapter of education. I had finished my administrative endorsement. Not that I wanted to be a principal, but I was seeking out more professional learning opportunities. Yep. And that was a really big eye opener for me. And I think that was the moment about halfway through that program when I realized that it was time for me to go, that I had done what I could and that I loved what I was doing, but I could be more effective. And I think, Kim, you were the one that told me this. You would be more effective in 1,000 classrooms than in just the one that you're sitting in. And so that was a very pivotal experience to be like, okay, what do I need to do that? And so I tried to get some jobs where I was, and it just wasn't working out. It wasn't the right time. I wasn't the right person. I wasn't the right fit. And as hard as that was, because I really wanted to stay there, I had other opportunities through Open and through other things to be able to kind of branch out and seek more learning opportunities. And so I would always say, I'm just a sponge all the time. What can I learn? How can I grow? What can I do to improve what I'm doing to help the kids that are in front of me? And so I think that mindset, that it's not necessarily just about you, but it's the impact you can have on, the kids that are in your classroom or the teachers that are in your district. I was just ready to kind of take that leap. And quite honestly, it was very interesting because my career path has been so weird. I started at this level of being in charge of a whole bunch of people and doing a bunch of things and leading. And then I wasn't, and I was doing all these other things. And now I'm back up there. It's just a very strange path, but it's an amazing journey because it gives you that appreciation for every single layer that's involved in growth and development. I always love to say that I have been able to be an educator at the K-12 undergraduate and graduate level. That span of being able to see how kids grow and develop and mature to the adult learner, it just is really something that I find right now is super important, because what we do in this role is really help our educators be as good as they possibly can be so they can be great for students. And so our focus is, how do we empower them? What can we give them? What professional learning opportunities can we give them? Are they interested in pursuing administrative roles? Do they want more? Okay, how can we facilitate that? Because I, especially as a woman, want other women to feel like they can do things and that it's not, I think that especially in our age group, there's a lot of, well, I can't really do that. That's not.
Let me just, finish out my years, just retired. Let's not go to the next step. One thing I did not hear you say was, well, it's a lot of luck.
It's not.
I would guess that you would say preparation is what prepared you, and taking advantage of things that probably you were not so good at. And I would say you're probably good at several things, but I would probably say the professional development that you sought after was the things, okay, I want to learn more about, instead of going to things you already know about. I think we get caught up sometimes to say, well, I'm feeling very comfortable in this position, so I'm going to keep going to the PDs that I already know stuff on, but I may just learn one or two little things extra. Go to the things that actually make you feel uncomfortable. Go to the things that actually are like, okay, this is really going to stretch me. And so that's where I heard you respond by saying, well, it wasn't luck, it was preparation.
Yeah. And surrounding yourself with people who are your advocates, amazing women that have I found that part may be luck, right?
Yeah.
Just amazing women.
No, there's this energy that brings us together. I don't know.
You, Sheila in Virginia Beach, Vanessa, Amy Wheeler, just these people who would just share. And me in my I have no idea what I'm doing. Can somebody please help me out? And just send me things and want to support me. And so those relationships have been pivotal because I just I've learned so much just from listening to them and taking it all in and saying, okay, I might not have done it that way, but I can understand why they're doing this way. And I get advice all the time. I'll get an email or a text message from one of those ladies, and they'll be like, hey, you need to. I'm like, okay, yes, mom. Yes. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, but it's great. And that mentor piece, you have to find people. But again, you got to seek it out. It's not just going to fall in your lap. It really isn't.
Well, that's the thing. Even before I get to the question, I mean, when we were doing the interviews after Kim left, I mean, there were several people that had called to advocate for you because they knew, they knew your track record and that was the big thing is, we had some cool interviews, but you're the only one that had people calling to advocate on your behalf. We didn't have to seek out the old, hey, are you the reference? So this person referenced you, right? And, listen, I tell you, it's following, going into your path, and following through PDs. I mean, that is the right way to go. I mean, go learning from everybody that's good in this profession and sit and talk to those people. Don't just, hey, I'm here at your session. Hey, you want to grab a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
Hey, at a conference, are you going to be, can I just pick your brain for a few minutes? And there's a lot more nuggets that you get from those conversations and building the relationships. I mean, that's the key word now, building relationships. And that's where we are. And listen, that's the right path. The only thing that I wouldn't follow you down is wherever you're trying to lead us in terms of going to a restaurant or somewhere else, because we know either of you can.
You won't get there. So yes, no. I absolutely agree with you on that one.
Jen, is it 100 footsteps and is that east or west?
It wouldn't matter. I wouldn't know.
That's why we never offer where we want to eat. You just tell us like we'll follow.
Just get in the car, ladies. Just get in the car.
Yeah, that's it. I'm not driving. And it's a gift to all of you.
Yes, right. That's great.
So, in this first year of working together, a little over a year, I mean, one of the things that you have a passion for, or I call it a passion, but you lead the nation in meetings for sure. And
it's relationships, Keith.
I understand that.
Relationships.
Hey, and that's amazing. You are, it's a meeting.
You guys have a lot of meetings?
No. Jen just has a lot of meetings. Every day she's got like 4 or 5 different meetings.
I feel like I need to defend myself on this one because coming into a district and not knowing anyone at all, I needed to find out who the heck was who. And so I must have sent 1,000 emails that said, hi, would you like to connect? I'm Jenn Vedder. I am the health and PE specialist and I am new. I must have sent that email like 5,000 times.
Did you add your Bitmoji too?
No, I didn't.
Okay, good.
Well, and that is all well and good. You are meeting people, but you have built up quite a relationship with a lot of community partners, right? Mm. And we know that in this business, especially public education, we rely on a lot of community partners to help with funding and advocacy and getting our students some of the cool experiences that they can get. Now, with that being said, what drives your passion for getting the community involved at such a level? And, what are some of the pluses, minuses of working with community partners?
So, one of the things, this is a throwback to my military spouse days, because we were always networking with community partners in the military to support families when spouses were deployed. And so it was not unusual for me to be sitting down with like owners of businesses or, small companies or the mayor or whatever to advocate for my spouses or to be at a an event where we were there supporting soldiers. And so that piece of my life was so ingrained for 25 plus years that it was a natural thing when I came into teaching in K-12 to figure out, okay, how can I leverage some of these amazing folks that are in our community that want to support our kids. And I just learned through trial and error, those organizations that are super supportive and good for kids, and those organizations that maybe a little bit more careful about, right? They have an agenda. You don't necessarily want them in front of kids, right? So that has been something that has just been part of our life. And as such, so has volunteering. Service and giving back to the community has been a part of our lives for so long because it is what military families do. My kids grew up like that. We all grew up doing something for somebody. And it wasn't like, oh my gosh, we have to go do this because mom's making us. It's like, when are we going to go do this? This is great. Let's go do that again. And that is the key, right? Like that piece of being involved in a community is not just taking, but what are you putting back? And so that is how I raise my kids. And so I feel like that is something that's super important to be teaching students in schools. So I try real hard to figure out in our community, who can we work with that's going to help advocate for health and physical education, that's going to empower my teachers, that's, okay, maybe give stuff or support our kids too in like material things, but also in, education and helping them live healthy lives and making wise choices and responsible decisions and all of that kind of stuff. So I think it's just been something that I've always done. And then now being in this position, I have a greater platform to be able to work with people I never really thought that I'd have an opportunity to. So the goal really is, how can we leverage community partnerships to empower our teachers, support our kids, and then what can we do to give back to them as well?
So to get started, let's say advice to a brand new coordinator in a school district. Do they really just kind of search what community organizations are out there and just send an email?
Have a meeting. No, just kidding. So, most organizations have like a strategic partnership office or department where there's a list of already established community partners that are vetted and solid and are used by the district. So I would start there, is try to get your hands on any kind of like family and community engagement office or strategic partnership
within the school district.
Within the school district. Yeah.
Okay.
Because in the school district, they have a list of all of like partners that they usually always work with.
Okay.
And so I would start there. And that's exactly what I did when I came here, because I didn't know what kind of things were already in place. And you had left a few that were vetted and tried and true, but I knew we could find more, right? But I didn't know where to start because I didn't know anything about this area. So I did reach out and I got a list of approved partners, and I just started sending emails and was like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. Would you be interested in meeting? And because of my success working with our Parks and Recreation department in Virginia Beach, my first stop when I got here was Parks and Recreation in this area, because I knew what amazing partners they were and how much they supported kids and teachers. And so when we serve all the same students, they serve them when they're playing rec basketball, and we serve them in the school when we're teaching. So we have the same, the group of people, so we might as well work together. Yeah. So Parks and Rec is like, that's where one of the biggies that I would start with, no matter where you are, because, or a YMCA or any place like that, that is an established organization that kids and families are utilizing.
That's awesome. So we talked about you being teacher to coordinator, your community partnerships. Now, this is going to sound like a very simple question, but I was constantly asked this. And you're my doppelganger. I feel like, again, I'm interviewing myself. And What do you like better? You are a health education teacher and a phys ed teacher. What did you like better teaching, health ed or phys ed?
Okay. Can I answer and then have an explanation? Can I do that?
That's the only way. This is
It's your interview. You do whatever you want.
I mean, Jen, have you noticed the whole culture of this podcast? I've been eating pizza.
Okay.
Drinking water, which after this will be an adult beverage.
Yep.
But, this is the type of podcast that we have, that's why we had to give this a rebirth.
Love it. So health ed or phys ed? I would say health education, 100%, because of the ability to be able to kind of have that classroom time where you can really build those relationships with kids, I sought out the professional development I needed to be a better physical educator, and then join Open that even furthered that, because PE was my weak link. I knew physical education, I knew fitness, but you asked me 5 or 6 years ago how to play a basketball game or how to teach a child how to play basketball, and I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know the skills because that's not my alternative route to licensure, did not cover that. So I didn't get those skill-based classes that people who go to college to become a health and physical educator would get. So PE was really hard for me. I didn't know how to sit kids in squads. I didn't know about locker room coverage. I didn't know how to distribute locks and lockers. I had to learn all of that on the fly in front of teenagers, right? And so PE was really hard for me. I spent a lot of time really struggling and going to professional development to learn how to be better at that and figure it out. And I watched the people that I was working with and realized, okay, I need to seek out more professional development. And that's when I found Open years and years ago, and realized that, this makes my life so much easier, and was able to eventually build myself up to a point where, I felt comfortable enough to put myself out there and do things involving physical education. I mean, I was a good teacher, but I didn't have like that natural ability. Like if Keith was to walk into an elementary school, he would be able to flip a switch in 2 seconds and be able to, do a skill with a kid without even thinking about it. I need a couple of days to prepare. And you'll feel fine going into that school. Make sure you don't change the grade level on me. You know what I mean? But not so much now, but a few years ago, that's kind of where I was. Health came very natural to me. It was just more of conversations that I was having with kids. And I was able to relate to them really well. PE, because teenagers, I was more high school based. Teenagers and physical activity don't necessarily always go together. So there was always that challenge of kids feeling self-conscious of their bodies and not wanting to work out. And so, trying to bridge that gap and help kids like to be physically active, really kind of helped me try to pursue that professional development and try to figure out, okay, how can I make this more fun? How can I make this so everybody wants to participate and no one's sitting on the side?
That one of the things that I feel that you pursued the being an Open national trainer was because you want to be surrounded by like-minded people. You wanted to grow. It was professional learning for you, and you wanted to be groomed and be mentored at that time of your life. It wasn't like, oh, I'm an Open trainer and I'm here and I'm presenting here. What I hear from you, and that's why I knew that you pursued it, was I want to be surrounded and get better.
Yeah.
When we get better is by being surrounded by people better than me, in your opinion, right? Absolutely. So the fact that I had no clue until your response that you didn't have that comfortability teaching phys ed. I thought it was phys ed first with the sci-fi to health ed. But the fact that you are actually an Open national trainer and you do PE, not only just PE, but you also with unified sports and all that with you have such a background with adaptive physical education. But the fact that you got selected, I mean, that is some hard work and preparation that you put. It doesn't happen just overnight. You had to work at it. Yeah. So kudos to you. I had no clue. I'm learning a lot about you, Jen, and I thought that you and I were sisters. We were born on the same day and we're the same age. And I thought I knew everything about you, but apparently I don't.
Let me tell you what I've learned so far.
What? What?
about the two of you. This is what's great. I've learned something from both of you today. One, that neither of you should ever teach geocaching. Straight up. Gone.
Done.
Neither of you. None of that. Okay. And now that I know your background with, or lack thereof, a background of phys ed, I won't even have to invite you on one of the teams I play at a conference to kick you off like I did Kim at one of the conferences. Where it's like, you got to go. You can't be on my team. We're getting beat by college kids. Go. Please kindly leave.
Okay, that's not fair.
Okay. I can play sports, okay? But teaching them is a different thing.
Oh, for sure. You know what? That's huge. That's a great comment. She can play sports, but teaching sports is a whole different thing. So that's another whole skill set. I'm so
Yes.
happy finally that is out there, everybody. Just
Yes.
because you played a sport doesn't mean that you can teach it or coach it.
It's
No, I
true.
do think that you may have an advantage, but it's still not the same.
It's
So
not.
yes, Jen, I will probably say that you probably do much better in spike ball than I did. But we're at the conference, and it was kind of early when spike ball was introduced, and they put us in teams. And I was like, "Oh, Keith, I'm your teammate. Let's go out there." Then he benched me.
We're getting crushed. We're getting crushed. Get out of here.
We're getting crushed. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get the muscle memory. I'm doing all this. I was a soccer player. I'm not really good with the hand-eye coordination thing, you know, but yeah, it was brand new. And this one, kicked me out. And I mean, luckily I'm very confident in who I am, that I didn't, just fall into despair, but
Right.
I was benched. That's how
I can see this in my brain right now. Like knowing now that I do, I can see this whole thing playing out exactly as you describe it. Like I feel like I was there.
I'm not a good loser. Sorry. So let's move on to one of these other fun questions. In 2020, I believe it was, is when you told me that you were the adapted PE teacher of the year for the state of Virginia. Congratulations on that. Post, whatever it is. What pushed you?
You just found out about it, because she's never going to walk into the office going, "Hey, today is my 3rd anniversary of being the adapted PE teacher." Let's get it.
Know. I mean, she might have to
do that tomorrow, though. Now I'm going to do that tomorrow.
She might have to give that award away, because we are part of one of the best state organizations in the country.
You are.
And shape. And so what pushed you to become involved with adapted PE and kind of,
she leads the unified sports.
Yeah, I mean, so what pushed you to get involved with that piece?
So really, this is a great story, because at my school, when I got there wasn't an adapted PE class. There was a time when the self-contained teacher would bring the kids down to the gym and they could play, but there was no class scheduled. And we all know, right? That's part of IDEA. There has to be a time allotted. So I made friends, like my first day there, with a guidance counselor, and we just immediately clicked. And she was like, "Jen," and she just kept putting these bugs in my ears. "Hey, Jen, you really need to meet so-and-so. You need to meet Scott Donnell. He's a self-contained teacher, and you need to talk to him about adaptive PE." I was like, adaptive PE? What the hell is adaptive PE? Right? Like, I was like, oh my gosh. Now I understood that it had to do with children with differing abilities. Like, I got that. I did a lot of work with Special Olympics when I was in high school and college. Like, I got it, but I hadn't taught it. And so working with this counselor and with Scott Donnell, who is still, I texted him today when we were at this unified meet today, just like, how can we support these kids? What can we do? And I set a meeting with the principal. Who am I? Like the gall of me, a brand new teacher, was like, "Hey, Principal Miller, I would like to have a meeting with you and talk about the fact that we need to be in compliance with IDEA." Who the hell am I? So he sat down with me and he took the meeting, and I laid it all out. I typed it all. He's like, "Okay, we'll schedule it for next year." I was like, and so super exciting. And they put me and Scott Donnell together. So it was the same block. Scott had on his schedule his kids, the self-contained kids, and then I had adaptive PE on my schedule. So we basically came together, and it was an amazing combination because he had all that experience as a special education teacher. I had the experience as a health and physical educator, and we were able to come together to really develop a program, not just a class, but a program for these kids. And that summer before the class was pushed forward at our school, I attended that Adapted Content Teaching Academy at James Madison. And that was back in the day when it was a graduate level course and there was homework and it was super intense. And you were staying up until like 11 o'clock at night in the dorm with other people writing lessons. And it was mind blowing and intense 4 days, but it was amazing, right? So we learned so much. I felt so empowered coming back. I really knew, okay, I get it. I can do this. And so very, very helpful. And we put together this class, and through trial and error, Scott and he taught me how to work with all of these kids with differing abilities and what I needed to be aware of. And again, it just came down to building those relationships with the kids who were nonverbal, kids who had all sorts of issues. It's all about the relationship, period. And that they know they can come to you and they trust you. And that was what we worked on that first year, was just the trust and the relationships and trying to have fun and making them feel good through movement and how that can make you feel, right? We all know the chemicals, the endorphins, all that good stuff. These kids really hadn't experienced that before. And so it was just this awakening for them. And so over the next few years together, we built our unified program. Our school was a national unified champion school through Special Olympics. We just kind of were able to use our influence with students in the building who saw what we were doing with these kids, because we'd work out in the hallway. When it was raining outside, we'd be walking around. We didn't care. We'd walk into classrooms like didn't matter. And the kids in our class felt so good about themselves that they were making friends. They were developing relationships with other students. And so the unified piece was just a natural outpouring of what we were doing. And so it was just like we got just a lot of kids involved who really had a heart for service, not just, oh, I need community service hours, but like, oh, I really want to work with these kids. You're having so much fun. Like, this looks like fun. And so that's kind of how it all just kind of evolved. And I think that it was just a little bit of luck with this one, being in the same place at the right time with Jen Lands, who was the person who was like, hey, you need to go do this. And then Scott Donnell, who was my co-teacher, just one of those things where the universe just kind of aligned to put us in the right place at the right time. And so that's kind of where that all just came from, is just being able to, again, have those people in my path who were willing to teach me and who were willing to work with me to make it better for kids, period.
So I'm going to alter my last question before we go to the quick bites.
Okay.
I think this is important for our viewers. I had no idea what Unified Champion, what a Unified Champion School was until I met you.
Oh, okay.
And so to our listeners, what is a Unified Champion School, or is it Champion School?
Champion, yeah. So Special Olympics has this program where they're all about unified activities, which means you are bringing students with and without differing abilities together to compete together in a sport: track and field, bowling, soccer, basketball, you name it. Now, the difference is with a unified activity, it's not the student without the differing ability helping students, but instead they're working together. They're competing together. They're learning skills together. And so a true unified champion school is one that has met, there's 10 indicators that the Special Olympics puts out. And some of those indicators include, having a unified class, having an adaptive PE class, having activities outside of the school day that bring students together. And, that could be, so we used to do color runs. We would do other kinds of things like that. And so having activities outside the school day, track meets, whatever. And it also includes, like, how are you advocating for students? with differing abilities? What are you doing in the school to promote the just kids not using like derogatory terms when they're referring to kids with differing abilities, right? So it's just, how are you promoting, how are you advocating for these kids, and what opportunities are you giving them? So they have this big checklist, and if you can prove all of these things are happening in your school, and you have, you know, community support. We were big partners with our police department. They would come out, they would support us, they would run different events for us. Again, community partnerships, right?
Yeah.
But again, like that was one of those things. And so that's what Special Olympics looks for. So here in our large urban school district, Special Olympics has put a lot of time and effort into all of our schools to be unified schools. They have given them funding, resources, support, and we have a lot of schools in this area that are unified champion schools. And that was one of the big draws for me to come here, was because I saw that there was a heart for this, and that's just something that's so special, you know, to my heart. So being able to go out to events like we were out today at this high school, where we saw these unified activities going on with soccer from 15 different schools across the district, was absolutely amazing. And last week we were out at another middle school that was doing an event. And again, there was like 12 different schools there, and all these kids were working together to a common goal. And it wasn't like, oh, you know, I'm a star soccer player, so give me the ball, you just stand there and look pretty. It was like, hey, I'm a star soccer player, but I'm going to kick you the ball, and now you need to get the goal, like that kind of thing. So kids are learning how to put themselves in other kids' shoes and really kind of work together to accomplish a goal. And I love that. It's that empathy piece, right? I just love it.
Okay,
So
that's
I'll tell you,
beautifully spoken. Beautifully spoken. Go ahead, Keith.
you know, and all of us on here have had that experience with adapted PE, and there are so many new to the profession that don't get a chance to have a little experience with it before they get to the profession, and they're really scared of that class. And I'll tell you, there's times in your career, and I think all three of us would agree with this, that you get great joy when you see kids accomplish things, right? You know, you see one of your students go on and become a college athlete, but there almost isn't any greater joy than to see these kids compete and do something, because they're always happy. They're happy to see you. They're happy to be there. And they don't care if you're teaching them the right thing or not. As long as you're building that relationship with them, they really are, like, it's amazing. Like when you, like the event we were at today, and Kim, all the Special Olympics we worked in our last district. I mean, you don't see greater joy than that. Win, lose, draw, I don't care. Like, they're happy and proud, and will show you medals for weeks, because it's amazing. It's an accomplishment, and we need more people in our business to understand that is a huge connection, and it's probably one of the most rewarding things you could do in our profession. Just people are just scared of it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Well, I think the difference between just a regular Special Olympics event, which is amazing, but how you stated how unified champion event, unified champion school, how they compete together. It's not let's say a student ambassador that is a 10th grader that is just recording scores and cheering the athlete on.
Right.
I am with you, competing with you, and we are going to hopefully win together. So I never really connected that until you so brilliantly, stated what it was. So that is something that, if you were a teacher, middle school, high school, is that where this is? Just middle school, so not elementary, middle school and high school.
Yep.
Okay, so middle school and high school, if you were a teacher, you just reach out to maybe your adaptive PE department if you have one in your school district, or would you just go, if you don't have one, would you just go to the Special Olympics in your community?
Oh yeah, you could go to Unified Sports online, and Special Olympics has amazing resources available for you to start your own stuff. There's lesson plans, there's activity plans. Yeah, so they make it really easy, and that culture of inclusivity is everybody needs that. Everybody, and this is my favorite line. Keith has heard me say it over and over. Everybody needs a place where they feel safe, supported, and they belong. I don't care what grade they're in. I don't care how old they are. Everybody needs that, right? It's one of those like things that just needs to be met. And so to be able to provide that in a school, the place where kids spend the majority of their time during their, years in high school and middle school, it's super important.
Okay, that's going to be a sound bite right there. I got to look at the timing. Okay, 1 hour 1:15. Find that and edit it. Put it out there. That's a sound bite. All right, so that was
come with us. I just saw the eyes roll in. He's done.
Which is then probably his way of saying, you know what, we're getting too serious here. He loves the conversation. Now, Keith will tell you though, and you noticed this already, Jen. He's a sensitive guy, even though he doesn't want to admit it. He has a lot of love and loyalty and nurturing inside that body of his. So, but I know that he's probably getting ready for the quick bites. So, all right.
Well, it's time to make her squirm a little bit.
Oh no. Okay.
No, it's not too bad. It's not.
Oh yeah.
But almost time for quick bites.
So Jen, this is about the only time that Kim and I have not talked about the questions. We don't know what we're about to ask you or how many we're about to ask you. We just want to watch you try and think of the first thing that comes to your mind. It could be a true, false. It could be yes, no. You just fire away.
Got it.
I'll make the first one easy for you. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh my God. Dial Drunk by Noah Khan. You have to listen to it. He did
I'm sure I'll hear it in the morning.
Alone. I will play it for you tomorrow morning.
Okay, wait, say it again.
Dial Drunk.
Dial
Drunk. Yep.
Okay, Dial Drunk. I will search my Spotify for that.
100%. My daughter and I will jam out to that.
Okay, this one was inspired by a Netflix series that I've been binge watching.
Okay.
So time travel, if it's possible, where would you go?
I would go back to when my mom was 5 or 6 years old, so I could meet her mother, who passed away, but I was named after her when my mom was 12. So I would love to go back and meet her. 100%.
Oh, that's sweet. That's a good one.
That's very cool. I thought you were going to say back to when you fell off the cliff in South Korea there, where you can, so you wouldn't hit that path. All right. What is an overused word that you would love to get rid of?
Like.
Mm-hmm.
Let's circle back around to that one.
Like,
oh my gosh, like
that's really, yeah, you're right.
Listening to my children say it all the time. I think that's why
we'll put a pin in that one.
Okay. Now that is in my reticular activating system that I'm going to notice that now. Once it's there, it's like, okay, now I see. All right. So Jen, this is just going to get a little, not personal, but I know that you run marathons and you have. So what's your favorite one?
Oh my gosh, New York City. Done it twice. Absolutely my favorite. I smiled the entire time. My face hurt when I crossed the finish line. I was like, why does my face hurt? Like my legs hurt, but like absolutely best one. New York City.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Kim's first time with a quick bite. So she's got to throw a little something else to sentimental. Can you name the 7 dwarfs?
See, you're dumb.
No, it's not dumb.
You're ridiculed me in marathon thing, and you're going to.
This is why you didn't do it in the past.
Happy, sleepy, dozy, Keith. I don't know. I can't.
Doesn't matter.
I
This is
can't.
Sleepy, dopey, grumpy, bashful, and happy.
Oh, because you already knew this question.
That's why you asked. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Got it.
Who cares? Dumb question.
Well, guys.
All right. Didn't know this was going to be between a battle between myself and Keith.
It is. It's always a battle. Go
This
ahead.
is the last question. All right. And you got to think quick. Got to think quick. Favorite PE equipment. Favorite piece of PE equipment.
Volleyball.
What's that?
Volleyball.
What did we talk about today?
What did we talk about today?
I thought for sure you were going to say the piece of equipment we talked about today.
So really, just a volleyball?
Kim
See,
does the
Oh, well, okay.
she's allowed to say it's a piece of equipment.
I want to change my answer, but I say volleyball because you can do so much with it, and everybody loves to bounce a ball, and you can engage kids in 100 different ways.
Yeah. Okay.
But Keith is right. The parachute is like a fan favorite. Everybody loves a parachute. Doesn't matter how old you are. He's 100% right, and I should have said that. But I was thinking volleyball. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's all fun and games until you see the Parachute of Paradise by Kim Morton. So.
She did see it. She saw it last year at North Carolina State. You know, it's funny. I was thinking of this question as, even though it said favorite, I was approaching this question like the one piece of equipment you can't live without as a PE teacher. So that's obviously my fault of wording it that way. But what would be one piece of equipment, both of you, that you can't live without? Let's say it doesn't matter, K-12.
Oof.
I think mine would be floor spots.
The what?
Floor spots and music.
Oh.
I mean, I guess music is equipment, but I'm going to kind of say, well, so I could have two.
Does music count as equipment?
I'm going to, but because I can't live without it, but it's not going to count. So we're going to go. I'm going to go floor spots and music. I think I do a lot of lessons without any equipment if I was like in desperate need.
Yeah. What about you, Keith?
I almost feel like some sort of, I'm going to say a playground ball, only because I can use it to bounce. I can use it to dribble. I can use it for soccer if I needed to. I can use it to roll. It's multifaceted in that.
Yeah.
You know,
that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. See, these are the kind of conversations that we would be talking PE and drinking adult beverage, which we may do coming up at North Carolina Shape. So, which the two of you are what? President-elect? No, president-elect coming up, right? The two of you.
Yeah, Keith will be president in the after this convention, and I'll be president-elect.
Look at you two. Look at you.
So I have
I love
two more quick fires for you. The first one is going to be, if you were, to have to go incognito, what would your nickname be?
Keith, I knew you were gonna. Okay, fine. This is it. I will tell you what my nickname would be, what my nickname was in high school, which you have been dying to get out of me.
One. That's it right there.
For months. There's no context. You get no context. None. Are you ready?
That's right.
Sweet lips and swivel hips. And that's all I'm going to say.
Oh, you just gave him so much arsenal. You're not going to get through your day tomorrow. You better close the door. You better do something. He's writing this down.
We have a meeting tomorrow. I can't wait to bring that up first thing.
Oh, goodness. He's going to have this
wonderful. That's
outside the door.
When I was in high school, Keith Kramer, I was a nationally ranked race walker. And I was 8th in the nation my senior year. And as a result, during that time, I got that nickname from my track coach and other kids. It just turned into this funny thing. And it was a huge joke. And it was so funny. But in upstate New York, race walking was a really big deal. And so we went to the Empire State Games, which is like the Olympics for non-professional athletes.
You made it. I never made it.
Yeah. And so
wow.
From New York.
10K race walk and a couple of years. that was there. Yep.
Wow. She's so now
Wow.
I don't think that nickname would fly these days. So
Not at all. Oh no! Like there were grown ass adults like
Right,
saying
right,
that to me.
like,
Like
they would be losing
I
their-
thought you were going to say is
They-
because I wouldn't have said race walker. I would have said maybe there was like in high school, you guys had one of those all night dance-a-thons to see who can make it, the marathon dancing things to see who's the last one standing. And you're out there still doing, the
I
chubby
would bet
checker
on
shape.
her though. She would win.
yeah.
No, she wouldn't. And I'll tell you why. Because earlier she said, we used to stay up until 11 o'clock at night doing work. That's when she gets up in the morning at 11 p.m. She gets up at 11 p.m. in the morning.
I do not.
Like this is well past her bedtime. Like, at 5 p.m.
40, and I'm
Dunsky.
still in the clothes I wore to work. So it's a whole thing.
So and the final question I have is, who do you like better, me or Kim, and why me?
All right, we're not gonna. You know what?
Oh, I can't answer that.
Listen here, sweet lips and swivel hips. We need an answer.
Well, I'm family. Practically family. Again, I didn't know about the New York. We could have been at some of the same track and field events, and who knew?
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Oh,
I
you
swear
would have
we
looked at each other and went,
Right. 40 years from now? 30 years from now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
dorks.
Well, Jen, it's always a pleasure just to have a conversation with you. Every time I talk to you, I learn something new. I know we're going to constantly keep talking and brainstorming. And the best thing I like about you is that you're humble. You're not a look at me type of person. You're all about just like, how can I help and support and just grow this profession? And I think you said it best in your soundbite. So I'm going to give it to you again. So your main passion is that you want every child to
Feel like they are safe, supported, and they belong to something. That's it.
It's that simple.
Yep.
And I think health and PE is one of the best vehicles to provide that type of environment and learning for kids. So thank you, Jen. I shared this with you before when you came into the position. It wasn't me passing. It wasn't me passing the baton to you. It was you taking the anchor leg and being the best runner and being like, look, here's the baton. But man, you're going to do so much better. You have already done so much for this school district, and I really appreciate you. And
You passed the baton and she didn't run, she walked.
over
there, Keith Kramer.
Jen, he's going to make you do it tomorrow. He's going to make you do a race walking in the
I don't
office.
know if I'm ready for that. I don't know if
Oh,
our
really?
relationship
Really?
is at that
Look,
level.
she already wears the retirement home 2000s in the office. So
The
They're
Hoka?
the best Hokas ever. Shameless plug for Hoka.
They are. I know.
Yeah.
All right, Jen. Well, thank you. And I think it's
Ew.
bedtime, right?
Fine. Yes.
All right. Thanks, Jen.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, Keith. We got to be quick on this. That show, we could go on and on
of course.
just talking to her. I took so many notes like I always do, but these podcasts, sometimes I go on before and thinking, okay, let's keep this 45 minutes to 60 minutes. There's no way you can do that, because when you're really having a good conversation, it's like, yeah, I'll have another beer just to keep the conversation going. So that's how it was like with Jenn Vedder. So what was your big aha moment?
Ooh,
And don't say race walking.
No, honestly, I need to talk to her tomorrow. She's probably told me this before, and it's one of those times where sometimes you ask a question just to ask questions and not really listen. Not really, I'm just messing. No, but knowing that she did empathy interviews,
Yeah.
Did she align her work to Brene Brown? She one of those people, because she does all the empathy stuff. So I want to dig into that a little more with her and see, how that works and what it's like.
I had an empathy interviews question mark because I'm like, okay, is that like a focus group that she did? I want to know more about it. And then she actually said, yeah, because we're talking about effective communication. I'm like, oh, National Health Education Standard Skill. Like I was little things. I'm like, yeah, I want to know more about that. Something that obviously, I did not know was about her history in the military and ROTC, with the, college opportunity that she had. And, I just love the fact that how much I just loved her tagline. It was simple.
Yeah.
And I saw her, knowing her, but just having that she wants to have every kid feel safe, supported, and gosh, what was the last thing? Loved, safe, supported. I just know that that's everything about her. That sums up partnerships, that sums up about the Unified Champion Schools, that sums up her as a curriculum writer, sums up her as a leader. And my last question that I did not ask, because I really wanted to expand on the Unified Champion School, because I think our audience could have benefited from it, including myself, was my last question was, well, what's next for you, Jen? I already kind of know the answer because she's getting her doctorate degree right now.
Sure.
She's getting her doctorate degree in a area. It's education leadership, but is it entrepreneurship too? What is it? Business leadership?
I thought it was just tying up about leadership. We talked about it today, but again, there was so much that happened today that.
Yeah, but there's a different type of leadership she's going for. Like, so my aha moment is probably not always an aha, but it's one of those where she's not stopping.
Right. No, she won't. She goes a million miles an hour.
But she takes time and pauses. I know that she's very into, her own health and wellness, but she's she's curious. She asks a lot of questions. She doesn't mind saying, you know what, I know nothing about this. There's no ego. And I think that's one of the best things to say. Hey, if you are interested of being a teacher to a coordinator, that's a type of attitude and type of work you got to put into it. It's not luck, and it's not about just, hey, well, I have 20 years. I've been teacher of the year in my school 3 times, so I become coordinator. No, it doesn't work that way.
No, and I'll tell you, I mean, she does everything with like a fiery passion. It's not, there's passion, but then there's a fiery passion. And like I said, she does go 100 miles an hour. I mean, I'm in awe at somebody who gets up as early as she does and puts in the work even before she gets to work on her own fitness and wellness. I mean, it's nuts. And the one thing that I didn't bring up that I wanted to bring up is the 3 of us are all now Peloton cyclists.
I did my workout with Cody today already.
Yeah, I just did a light one this morning. My knee is jacked up. I got to go to the doctor this week. So,
well, Keith, right before you and I, take off, I got a quick question for you. You're a baseball fan. So, Diamondbacks or the Phillies to win Game 7 tonight?
I want the Diamondbacks because they haven't been there in a while. And I like the story.
Okay.
And they're an underdog.
Who you want, but that's who you want, right?
I want to see them in the National League, but I want to see Texas win it all. I was happy that Texas beat the cheating Houston Astros. And, as much as it hurts me to say that for Texas because they're in the same division as the Oakland A's, I'm fine with them winning the World Series because I like Bruce Bochy, great manager. He's won 2 or 3 with San Francisco, with the Giants, and now he's in Texas. But Arizona, they have been the doorstep of the National League West for a while, and now they're.
But that's who you want. But who do you think is going to win tonight?
I think they're going to win tonight. They've got everything on their side. Like, they are playing hot baseball right now.
That's awesome. All right, Keith, it's a pleasure. Lace you later.
Yeah.